Welcome, I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari again seeks support of the international community in tackling the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast part of the country. The Senate asked the Minister of Power, Works and Housing to immediately suspend the 40% hike in electricity tariffs. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arraigns senior advocate of Nigeria, Ricky Tarfa, on a 2-count charge of obstruction of justice and attempt to pervert course of justice. The PDP appoints new national chairman, former Borno State Governor Ali Modu Sharif. And prosecutors in Germany blame human error for the train crash that killed 11 people in Bavaria last week.
And on Business News tonight, Nigeria and Britain discuss ways to promote bilateral trade and economic development of the country.
And in sports news, Nigeria wins hosting rights for the 2016 African Beach Soccer Championships.
The People's Democratic Party now has a new national chairman. He is the former governor of Borno State, Ali Modu Sharif, and his emergence was ratified this evening by the Board of Trustees. Members were initially divided over the choice of Ali Modu Sharif as the party's national chairman. In his acceptance speech, Ali Sharif promised to build a new PDP that would become a more formidable opposition.
The task ahead of us is very challenging one. The task is to build this party, carry everybody along, and make sure that the PDP goes to victory in 2019. I know a lot of people have expressed different opinions, which is allowed in party politics and democracy. But I want to assure everybody that the choice you make today, nobody in this hall will regret, inshallah. We will win, inshallah, come 2019. It's not the task of Ali Modu Sharif alone, but I will pilot this party to success, inshallah. Nobody will be witch-hunted. Nobody will be left alone in the business of building this party. All of you, with me, we had put our heads together and take this party to victory.
Newly appointed national chairman of the PDP, Ali Modu Sharif. Now, the president seems to be making an urgent call to the international community to help Nigeria bring an end to the Boko Haram threat. He says there's acute hunger and starvation ravaging the region due to the terrorist activities. President Muhammadu Buhari was speaking during the visits of the Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to the presidential villa. Our State House correspondent Chukwuma Onekwusi reports.
Madam Johnson Ellen Sirleaf and her host take the national salute. And she inspects the guard of honor mounted by the Guards Brigade of the Nigerian Army. The two leaders are introduced to the officials of both sides. Some photo moments before a meeting that centered on expression of gratitude to Nigeria for the support during the crisis and fight against Ebola.
I came to renew the strong bond of friendship between our two countries, to talk about the joint commission that has been formulated and how we can make it a more effective instrument for improving trade relation, investment relation, international relation, to continue to see Liberia and Nigeria as strong friends.
President Buhari, on his part, is impressed with the progress made so far in Liberia. Back home, he wants the international community to continue to support him to restore peace in the northeast, now being ravaged by starvation brought about by Boko Haram.
How do we stop the cross sub-regional terrorist infiltration and attacks? The Lake Chad Basin Commission, comprising of Cameroon, Chad, Niger, Nigeria, and Benin, have to work with ECOWAS, the Central African sub-region, and of course ECOWAS, to make sure that we stop the spread of terrorism, the effects of which, you know, in the northeast, for the last 2 planting seasons, they have been planted, much less harvest. So virtually there is starvation. You need to see, you made comments for the several million of Nigerians that are in IDPs, internally displaced persons camps. And we went over all these things that affect both of us and our region and the continent.
The two leaders pledged to continue to do their best to ensure that their economies get back on track. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
And the federal government is still talking to the rest of the international community to find ways to bring peace to the northeast region. The Minister of Information, Culture and National Orientation, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, says the war against terrorism requires a global alliance.
Why is it that anytime the president says something that Boko Haram has been decimated, or when the president that it has been decimated, is followed immediately by an attack? I think it's simply part of the propaganda of the Boko Haram. It hurts them to know that we know that they have been decimated. But that's the truth of the matter. And to prove that they are relevant, they go again to unleash this cowardly, attack on soft targets. But the truth of the matter is that Boko Haram today is degraded, dispersed, hungry, and that's why they are so desperate.
All right, now let's take the conversation further now. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a retired military officer and expert in asymmetric security, Group Captain Felix Ihanacho. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
You're welcome.
The president has made a number of calls to the international community for assistance with this war. But what he's talked about now is acute hunger and starvation. That's a different dimension. How do you think the international community will respond first?
Well, the international community, obviously, will give us a favorable response because whatever affects the world is a global village for now. You can see the surge in human population moving into Europe, and they are screaming about firming up their borders, reducing the influx of human people coming in for economic reasons and war-related reasons, particularly from the Middle East and some parts of Africa. So if there is a problem in Nigeria, looking at the population of Nigeria, if there is issues of hunger in Nigeria, obviously it will reverberate around the entire West Africa and eventually reflect in Europe. So it's better for them to begin to solve the problem right here, where the problem is emanating from, rather than wait until it becomes, the consequence management becomes what they should be facing right in their very back door.
So do you think that the humanitarian response is more urgent than that of security or arms?
Oh, no. I think, you see, the humanitarian aspect is as a result of the insecurity problem. So if you deal with the security problem, obviously, you are going to degrade and water down this humanitarian aspect. So two of them certainly go hand in hand. But I can tell you, the reason why we are having the issue of hunger is because of the problem we're having with terrorism. solve that problem, the hunger problem will be degraded. We go back to they will live their normal life. Naturally, we have our agriculture, which is the mainstay of the average person in that region.
Let's look at that problem with terrorism now. Some people argue that what should be done is to try and secure the areas that are most vulnerable, or areas where you see the attacks continuing. What do you think about that particular argument in terms of trying to make sure that the civilian population within those vulnerable areas are not the target of repeated attacks?
Well, I think it's very, very important. Without security, you cannot have any socio-economic development. Even if the international community is coming to give help and the place is not secure, to what extent can that work? Obviously, the security is the help that we're seeking is predicated upon a secure environment.
Yes, but how can they do that? How is the question?
Well, how we're going to do that is to begin to continue to deepen what we're doing. For example, we have bilateral, multilateral arrangements with our neighbors and regional and sub-regional covenants and arrangements that will help in securing our region. For example, you have the Chief of Defense Staff conferences in West Africa sub-region. We have the intelligence chiefs conferences. We even have the, what we're having now with the Republic of Benin, Chad and Niger, the multinational arrangements we are having here to fight the war against Boko Haram. So we need to continue to deepen that arrangement by making sure that we can domicile all the covenants and agreements that we have with all these regional, sub-regional, bilateral and multilateral bodies, so that whatever arrangement we are having will be, we have an in-country latch on, so to speak. And the most important thing really, I think, is for us to reshape our security architecture. That we haven't done, and it's a very important aspect that I need to point out. We are still looking at we are still having the old architecture that we have. We need to re-engineer our security architecture to reflect the threat that we're having right now, which is asymmetric, not non-conventional. So when we do that and continue to work on this, obviously this outreach we are making to the international community will begin to reflect effectively.
All right, Group Captain Felix Iheanacho, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you.
And in part two, after the break, Kogi state politics heats up following controversial impeachment of the House of Assembly Speaker. That's in a moment. You join us again.